Hi, this is Christian devotional author and speaker Christy Birchfield, and today I want to share with you a devotional about Martha. As she was working her way through the Bible and through all the different things she was going through, she really went on a journey, and I'd like to share with you a little bit about it so that you can follow her journey and maybe avoid some of the pitfalls that she ran into. You see, the first thing about Martha that we see is she is distracted by her work. And we see about her in Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 42. First off, we have Jesus at the home of Mary and Martha, and Mary is her sister. And Mary is in with Jesus, sitting, reclining, and hearing what Jesus has to say. Martha is in the kitchen, preparing everything for her. So we see as we read, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but only few things are needed, or indeed only one." Well, as we see, Martha got distracted by the work going on around her. She felt she had so much to do, so many things that had to get done, and she was focused on that instead of being focused on Jesus Christ. And as we go through our day, we will find so many things. It's amazing how many things can pop up to distract us from what Jesus has for us today. We have to stop and evaluate and make sure that we're not being distracted by all the stuff that we have to do. Because if we're distracted, the second thing will happen that happened to Martha, and that is we get disgusted by worship. You see, Martha happened to be looking over and she sees her sister over there getting to sit down, listening to Jesus, seeming to be doing nothing, and she is jealous and angry. So she gets disgusted by the worship that she sees in other people. And we'll find that that's exactly what happens to us. If we get distracted by work, we start to get jealous of other people, and we get angry and bitter when we see them obeying God and doing what God has for them. We can't rejoice with them. We're too busy being upset and jealous. We get disgusted by worship that we see in others. Well, Jesus has a great talk with Martha. He explains to her that, you know what? Mary has chosen correctly, and it will not be taken away from her. Jesus teaches her some great lessons right there. We have to be focused on him and him only. That's truly the only way we can get through the day. Well, Martha learns that, and she sees Jesus doing all the miracles and all the great things that he does. So fast forward a little bit. A tragedy occurs in Martha's life. Martha's brother dies. You see, she had her brother Lazarus, and she loved him. And she sent word to Jesus when he got sick and said, "Jesus, my brother Lazarus, your friend whom you love, he is sick. Please come." Well, Jesus didn't come right away. We see this story in John chapter 11. As we read through that, we see that Jesus waited several days actually before even coming. But when he came, who was the first person out to meet him? The ever practical Martha. She explains to him, she has a question for him. As you look in John chapter 11, verse 21, she says, "Lord," Martha says to Jesus, "if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask." Ever practical Martha. You see, she was determined based on the witness that she had seen. She knew what God could do, and she was going to hold him to it. She knew that he was the Son of God. So even though at one point she had been distracted by work and got disgusted by the worship of others, she was now determined based on the witness that she had seen of what Jesus could do. Well, Jesus answers her and explains that he is the resurrection and the life. And he tells her to get her sister Mary. Mary comes out. And through the course of events, Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. Martha gets to see exactly what it was that she was so determined to see from the very beginning. God rewards her determination based on the witness that she had seen of what Jesus could do. As we're faced with so many things, we can hold on to those truths that we know about God, no matter what circumstances come in our life. We can always trust that God will fulfill his promises. We can be determined, just like Martha. And finally, where do we end up with seeing Martha? And sometimes an often overlooked passage actually comes right in the next chapter, John chapter 12. We start out and we see, it says in verse 1, 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. So we know this was after what had just taken place. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honor. Martha served, while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Nowhere in there does it say that Martha was upset about serving, that she was mad and angry about serving. She had gotten to the place where she recognized that her work was worship. As she was worshiping God, she could show God that she loved him because of who she is and the work ethic that she had. It's what she did. It's what she was good at. And God had gifted her to be able to do that, and she recognized that. She realized she didn't have to be jealous. She didn't have to get distracted by the work. She could let the work be a testimony of her worship to God. As we're going through our day, are we allowing our work to be a distraction? Are we allowing our work to be worship? Are we doing everything that we do because we have to do it and it's part of the daily grind that we have? Are we doing what we do because we love God and that we want to show him how much we love him by doing our very best in everything that he has for us to do? You see, if we're spending our time being distracted, we'll just end up getting disgusted by the people who are worshiping and lose out on that blessing as well. But if we will stay determined and focused on what God can do for us, we will be able to see God's promises fulfilled as we are doing the work that he has us to do, worshiping him the whole time. Thanks so much for joining me today. I pray that this blessed you. And I also thank you so much for coming with me and joining me as we seek to live in the world and live out the word. May God bless.